This is our 2020 Northstar Liberty Truck Camper, and we are going to be selling it. It is for sale. I'm going to take you on a detailed walkthrough of everything that we've done to this camper because it is not anything like what you can buy from Northstar. We've put 1,000+ hours, I'd say, into this thing and tens of thousands of dollars. So let's do a walkthrough on it and see what all we've done to it and see what it looks like after about 4 years of ownership. Let's get going. The front nose cap has held up really well. There's a few small rock dings from all the travel, but we've kept it sealed every year, at least once a year, and we just finished buffing it again, and it's holding up really well. You know, for a truck camper, we store it inside most of the time, but we use it probably, I'd say maybe 3 months a year since we've owned it. So that's been doing really well. Down the side here, we've got our acrylic windows, which we absolutely love these acrylic windows. So there's one in the bedroom area, and there's one in the dining room area. And these windows, the only thing you have to be aware of with acrylic windows is that you do need to kind of polish them, especially if you get into the trees. So they'll get little scratches and stuff in them. And so we typically polish it after every trip, and that just kind of keeps it a little bit better visibility through them. Otherwise, they're very, very low maintenance, and they're excellent in the hot and cold, and they've got these fantastic blinds, which we'll show you inside. It's probably one of my favorite features of this truck camper is those windows. Now, these jacks are good old Happy Jack 4220s. These are the power jacks, so you have a remote control, which is wireless, and you can raise all the jacks together or run each jack separately. Fantastic. Makes it so easy for loading and unloading. We also have storage for these jacks in the basement of the truck camper, which we will show you. That's something I've never seen done before. On the side, we've got LED light. These can be turned on and off either by a switch on the outside or an interior switch. So if you leave them all on, you can just hit the interior switch and it lights up both sides and the back of the camper if all those switches are on. Over here we've got the Dometic fridge vent, so it's kind of like an access to the fridge. This is a 12-volt refrigerator, so there's no propane run to it. So technically you don't need to have the vent, but they do have it there, and it does give access into the fridge area, which is kind of helpful. Over here we have the propane storage. So you can actually host two 20-pound tanks. We've only ever carried one tank with us. And this tank is kind of handy because it has a little gauge here if you want to zoom in on that. And so it kind of gives you an indication of how much propane you have. The other stuff we typically store in here is a drinking safe water hose. That's a 50-foot hose. This hose we use as a siphon hose, which we'll show you how that works. This collapsible water jug we use for fresh water, if we're hauling it from like a campground spigot or a creek or wherever you want to pull water from, you can use that. And this is the gray water kind of collection bag, and we've got a hose extension for the gray water collection bag. So if you're in a campground or whatnot and you need to contain your water that comes off the sink in the shower, you can use that, which is really handy, nice, easy to dump because this trailer has no gray tank. We exchanged the gray tank for a complete basement build out on it. Let's go take a look at that. Now, the basement of the camper originally was basically around here, and so we extended out and basically raised the camper slightly, and then you can see we actually cut out the base of the camper and then put these really slick flush locks in, so you can basically lock this little hatch here and it flips down. It's got a piano hinge that runs the length of the whole door, and it gives access to the entire underside of the camper. So on one side we built this huge drawer that slides out, and the full floor length is about 7 foot. So this is just shy of 7 foot. Now we built this drawer for hauling our inflatable paddle boards. So these straps we use to kind of cinch down the paddle board to kind of keep it down a little bit lower so it won't get up into the insulation foam boards on the underside of the camper. And that's worked really well for us, but this could be fantastic for snow gear, fishing poles, really whatever you want to come up with for storing underneath here. It's on UHMW slides, so it's custom UHMW that is on the underside. So you basically have skids on the bottom of the camper and on the drawer, and so it basically allows it to slide really nice and even. And then on the back side of the drawer, what you can't see is that as the drawer comes out, it's actually running on a rail on the inside. So that keeps the drawer, you can lift it, but it holds it from flopping downward and allows it to keep sliding without much resistance. And then there's a lock we added. So it's just a kind of a spring-loaded pin style lock that goes into just a metal L bracket there. So that can lock and unlock, slide it in, super easy, super fast. Now on this side of the basement, we have another hatch door, and we store our jacks underneath there. So basically the jacks slide in and go all the way to the front of the camper, and they just stack one next to the next. Then we close this door that kind of keeps it from sliding forward, and you have this cubby here. Now on this front cubby we use to store our fold-up camp chairs. We've got the really compact style ones. We also use it to store the jacks for the front if you offload it, which we'll take a look at. And we also have blocks we use underneath the camper legs, so we store those in here as well. So it's a really slick storage option. It allows you to carry your jacks with you and allows you to remove your camper if you need or want to drop it someplace, or you need to service your truck or anything along those lines, which is a really nice feature. If you're storing your jacks on the camper while you travel, it adds a lot of wind drag. It actually makes it a little bit less stable because you have all this weight on the outside of your vehicle. They're prone to get damaged if you drive them off-road and you catch a leg on a tree, a stump, a rock, anything along those lines. And this solution basically puts all the weight down much lower. So you're in essence lowering your center of gravity for your whole camper because you're basically weighting it right at the lowest point here. Now originally this basement was not an enclosed basement. We added this basement floor to it, which is a marine grade plywood floor, and it's fully supported to the outside edge down the center, and then it's fully sealed with a black deck waterproof sealant on the inside and on the underside, which has worked really well and it's held up excellent so far for us. You can get dust in here, but it's really not been a major issue for us in all the travels that we've done.
We also added additional insulation in the flooring when we closed it.
Yes, it does have additional foam board insulation underneath the entire floor, which it didn't have from the factory. So this addition was a really slick upgrade and a lot of hours to do it and to make it work well and make it truly functional. It also added a little bit of height to the profile of the camper, which we actually needed to clear the cab of our truck, because without that, the cab over portion would actually hit our truck roof. So it kind of fixed two things at once and gave us a lot more functional storage. We have a mount for a DeWalt pole saw, and I've never seen this done before, but it is the best feature we've done to this camper if you're traveling anywhere with a lot of trees, because as you can imagine, this not being a collapsible pop-up style camper, it is rather tall. I mean, if you're talking 10 foot of height and you're in the trees, sometimes a tree, either a down tree or a tree branch, might stop you from getting through a road or trail. Well, with a pole saw, you can cut your way through, and we've done that. We've got videos that you can watch to show that. But this is a fantastic saw. It basically has full accessibility to put it on and take it off with the camper on the truck, It's just using two quick fist style holders for the handle, and then we have a shovel mount here, and this is also fantastic because anyone who does any backcountry stuff knows how important it is to have a shovel, not only for doing your business, but also for any sort of recovery, campfires, anything along those lines. You really want a shovel that's readily accessible, and this is a great way of doing it. The other thing we added is a power connector. So this is an Anderson power connector, and it goes to our DC charger. It allows the camper to charge its batteries while we drive the truck. So that is a huge benefit. It's a 50 amp charger in there, and it allows you to charge when maybe the solar is limited. Let's say you're in the snow or maybe under full tree cover and your batteries get depleted. You have the option of recharging it with that method. On the back of the camper, there is a couple outlets, pretty standard, something that came from the factory. You notice that this does not have the wrap around with the brake lights and all that. This was actually an option from Northstar, and it's one of my favorite options. The reason is because, first of all, the wraparound is ugly, it adds weight, and it's just clunky. The second thing is that it gives you access to your truck bed, and that gives us access to the pull saw and our shovel, anything else you want to jam alongside of your truck bed. That's super nice. It also allows you just to have your standard brake lights of your truck exposed rather than those ugly, tacky aftermarket style lights. Otherwise, we've got the standard lights up there. We've got a roof ladder here, a grab handle. We actually shortened this grab handle. Originally it came out probably almost another 6 inches, and so I thought this looked a lot nicer. It also kind of acts like a door holder, I guess. I don't know. It's something that it's kind of handy to have, but not really necessary considering you have a ladder right next to you if you need to grab something. Down here is outdoor shower. We haven't used it too much, but it's kind of handy if you need to wash something off. And then we've got the Cassette toilet container, and this is a Thetford 5-gallon Cassette toilet. Very slick. It's got a little water filler too if you want to use fresh water to kind of flush with. We haven't used the flush feature for it, but those are really nice because you can basically dump them anywhere. If you have a pit toilet or even a rest area, it gives you a lot more flexibility. Dump station, you can really have a lot more ability to just avoid typical RV style connections and campgrounds and so forth like that. Now, the back here has another LED light, and that has it's the same as the side light there. And then we've got our camper door. This one was special ordered with no window, and the reason for no window is because less heat loss, less heat gain, and realistically the window not real functional, at least in my perspective, so we order it without a window. We actually replaced this door about 6 months ago because we had an incident with a bear, so he did some damage to the window or door, so we have a brand new door on here, which is nice. And the Cassette toilet, we also replaced the Cassette around a year ago, so that one is fairly new. On the side here, we've got the propane heater, the furnace, and that's the exhaust for it. It's another LED light. We've got the 6-gallon, or I guess it might be a 4-gallon. I think it's a 4-gallon water heater on this one, and it's just a propane style. We've got our power connection, which is not currently connected, and then we've got our water fill, which also is not connected any longer. To fill the water tank, all the filling is going to be done underneath here with this hose connection, and this hose connection is used for both filling via hose from a water spigot, which you just use a standard water hose that's water drinking safe, and you can just plug it in and turn on and fill up the tank that way. Alternatively, you can use the siphon hose, the short white hose that we showed you earlier, and suck water in off of, 5-gallon jug or whatever you've got. If you're in a campground that maybe doesn't have water right there at the site, or maybe you're remote camping and you have a fresh water stream and you want to haul your own water and siphon it off your own jug. That's a slick way of doing it. So it gives you 2 water fill options. The third water fill option is actually the tank itself, which we'll look at inside, has a removable lid to it, so you can actually just dump water into the tank by that method as well. However, if you don't use this water fill, you will be bypassing 2 of the water filters, because after this siphon pump we have 2-stage water filtration before the water gets into the tank, which we will take a look at here in a moment. At the back we also have the water drain line. So this basically gets tucked between the truck bumper and the body, so it's pretty hidden, and that's where the water from the sink and the shower goes. And then you can extend the hose with just adding that hose extension into the water collection bag if you want, which is a great way of doing it. There's also the 7-pin connector, which basically just turns on the lights or allows the lights to work in the camper when your headlights are on for the perimeter height lights and whatnot. It also allows the charge controller for the DC to DC charger to trigger and turn on when the vehicle is running. We also have one other thing on the side here is these access hatches. So these give access into the truck bed from the inside if you want to use kind of like the wasted space along here for storage, which is really handy if you have, some extra groceries or something like that, maybe like canned goods or something to store outside of the camper in the truck bed area. It's a pretty slick way of doing it. Now on the front, if you unload the camper, what we found is that it's kind of rocks around, it moves. And the best way that we found for stability that's very easy and allows you a lot of flexibility is just using these jack stands. So these jack stands actually store in the basement of the camper when we're traveling. And then there's also this beam, this wood post basically that's spanning between the 2 jacks that we use to basically stabilize the whole bottom of the camper. And that's been really great if you offload the camper or you're storing the camper, or maybe you're at a campsite and you want to just use your truck. This allows you to not have movement on the camper. It feels really solid and stable, which is an easy, fast way of doing it. It allows you to drop the height of it all the way down too. The torque lift fast guns are the best way of securing the camper to the truck, and we have multiple videos on these things, so check that out. We'll post it in the description or up above. We also have the torque lift steps, which are fantastic. We have a couple videos on these and show how we carry them and store them, and they basically have a mount to connect them to the exterior of the camper, and we have a mount on the inside of the camper, which we'll take a look at, that basically allows them to be held in place as we travel. Now before we get inside, let's take a look at the roof. Now on the roof, you want to check out the video where we redo the entire roof of this camper. So it's all brand new as of just this last month, but we have 875 watts of solar on the roof, and that is 5 solar panels that are 175 watts each, and they're all brand new, so they are fantastic. These are flexible solar panels. They weigh about 6 pounds each, rather than a glass solar panel which weighs about 30 pounds for one of them. So our entire solar array weighs in at only 30 pounds, the same as one glass solar panel, and these have worked really well for us. The original solar panels were actually functioning just fine after 4 years, but we had one that had been damaged, and we decided let's just replace all of them, and we tested them all to verify they were good. But because these are slightly different size, we wanted them all to match. So we went ahead and put all new solar panels on, all new TPO roof, redid all the screws and trim and skylights, and it's got a max air fan, and then we have a new fridge vent cover, and then we have our cell booster antenna here, and that has a magnetic mount with a metal ground plane for it. And that thing is amazing how well it works in the backcountry, just to give you a little bit better cell reception. So the roof is pretty fantastic. I don't think I've ever seen another truck camper with this much solar, certainly not one of this size. Let's take a look inside. On the inside of the camper, of course, we've got a standard screen door, nothing fancy there, just RV stuff. And then down here at the base of the floor, we have our mount to secure our stairs, which sit on this nice little rubber rug, which is a great way of keeping the camper floor clean. You can take off your shoes. This is a great storage spot for shoes. You can slide them right underneath there. At the entry here, we also have the light switches. So this one controls the light right above us. And then we also have the exterior down lights, which are really slick. I didn't show you guys those, but check out our original camper walkthrough video. I'll post a link to that, and we'll get into more detail on this camper that way. The power stuff is all mounted back here. We added a Renogy 2000 watt pure sine wave inverter, and this is wired into all of our camper electrical. And then we've got our Renogy 50 amp DC-DC charge controller, which we showed you the power connection on the outside. And then we've got a Victron 50 by 100 MPPT solar charge controller, which basically allows all the charge from the roof to get into the batteries. And we've got some circuit breakers, and I've got some detailed videos on this electrical system, so you want to check that out. The main addition we did since that video has been the power inverter, which we didn't do a video on, but has been a fantastic addition. The entry, we have the bathroom, which it is compact. I mean, this is a small truck camper, so it's a huge luxury to have an interior fixed bathroom that isn't shared with cabinets or anything else. You've got this really nice cabinet above the toilet that you can store all your toiletries in. There's a nice LED light, a skylight. The shower has, of course, hot water, cold water controls to it. And then you've got your Thetford 5-gallon cassette toilet. And that has been fantastic. The floor pan actually lifts out, and that gives access into the shower pan. So if you're taking a shower, you pull out the removable floorboard there. And if you're not, you leave that in place, and it gives you a little bit taller height to use your toilet. It also is nice because if your shower is wet, and you can put that floorboard on and just let it dry, and use your toilet that way as well. On the opposite side of the toilet, we have, well, let's look at the top here. So we've got our nice Max air fan, which we replaced this one maybe a year, 2 years ago, something like that. It's a multi-speed fan. It has the vent cover that goes up and down, it goes in and out. It also has the thermostat on it, so you can just set it and it will automatically ramp up and down to try to maintain 78 degrees. The Dometic fridge, we have a video on this, a really long one, so if you want to check that out, definitely do that. We have a ton of videos on this camper, so be sure to just check them all out if it's something that you have interest in. This thing has been a fantastic fridge. It's digital controls, it's got a freezer compartment above, and we found that just using 2 shelves is the most efficient way to store things in this fridge. The only failure point of this fridge is really the latching mechanism, which we talk about in another video. Our solution was to basically create a custom mount. So this is a metal piece that we basically fabricated to attach to the side here, and it basically slide it in, lock it in place when you're traveling, keeps that door from opening up, because it is a real problem if your door opens up and all your stuff falls out. Down below the fridge, we have another storage compartment, and all these are positive engagement latches, which are really nice for keeping your storage drawers closed while you travel. So you just push button. Down below here, we have another huge cubby. This has been really slick for storing stuff. I also added a nice 12-volt fuse block panel that goes to the battery, and so we run our cell booster off of that, as well as our fridge, and it also has additional circuits if you want to add additional wiring. But we also added a bunch of different power charge connectors. So here's 2 USB, 2 more USB at 12 volt, another 12 volt. You've got your 120 volts AC power. The factory had another 12 volt power port, and we've got 2 more USB. We also added this little nifty storage container, which we can use for cell phones. This is the cell phone booster. So if you're using the cell phone booster, you can just set your cell phone right in there, and it functions extremely well for that. You can use it for charging your devices, plug them in, set them in there. Really easy, nice way of doing that. Up top here we have the cell booster, which we have a whole video on that as well. And this is the new addition. This is for the 2000 watt power inverter. So this allows you to turn it on and off right from the wall, so you don't have to go down the floor and find the switch for it. This is our Victron control panel, so this allows you to see the battery status as well as the solar charge status. It also is Bluetooth, so you can control all on your phone. We've got a full video or 2 on the power system, so check that out. This switch here is the switch that operates those exterior lights we showed you earlier, so the one on each side of the camper and the one on the back. That's really nice if you're going out of the camper at night, especially if you're in the forest and you want to make sure there's no wildlife or other things around. Easy way to do it, pop that on, see outside the camper really easy. Now, the dinette area is all custom. This is something we have a whole video on, and the table is a custom size table. Now, it's really sized as big as you can possibly do it, at least for our usage, and we're not big people. So if you want more space, you just want to either cut the table down or use a different table, which is really easy to do. Just get whatever table size you want and use our mounting brackets for it. But to have a nice dinette where you can sit across from each other and look out this really nice huge window is fantastic. I think the dinette is one of the most important, fun, just functional features that you can have in any truck camper. It's probably one of the most essential things in my mind, just because it's the place where you can sit down and do some work, you can dinner, have conversation. Now on this side is basically wide enough for one person, and if you want to put a laptop, something like that, you can do that. On that side, you can actually sit 2 people pretty comfortably, so if you wanted to watch a movie, it's a great way of doing it with that extended bench. All of these cushions are custom made for this bench, so they're nice thick foam on the bottom, which is great because it's comfortable if you want to sit here for several hours doing some work, and then a thinner foam on the back, so that way you don't lose quite as much of the depth on your storage or on your dinette area. So that's really a neat functional feature that we added. Originally, it was basically just an L, and it had one swivel table, but it just wasn't very functional. And if you have 2 people trying to do any sort of work or whatnot, you just have no table space. There's nowhere for you guys to really have room for dinner. This table also functions really well as a kind of extension to the kitchen. So if you need more prep space, you can use this as well as the kitchen area. Now these windows are my favorite feature, probably of the whole truck camper, short of the dinette. And the neat thing with them is they've got these blackout shades that go up and latch, and they are incredibly black. If you are pitch black at night, you have all the interior lights on, you close these things, you can barely see anything. Like, you have to look at an angle and see if there's even just a sliver of light. They do a fantastic job blacking the thing out. You can also pull them down, and it has a proper screen. Now, a lot of these acrylic windows I've seen have the accordion style screen, and those are terrible for keeping bugs out. This screen, vastly superior. This window also is a lot better window anyways for just the spring mechanism for the retracting the blinds. You can see how strong it is, and it's 4 years old, and all of them have functioned perfectly well. Originally, Northstar used a different window vendor, and they were completely subpar, terrible, and these have been absolutely fantastic. I believe these are made by Eurovision. They have a bunch of these latches, and you basically push this little gray button, and then you can flip the latch open. And then they have these different catches here on either side, kind of struts. So the first position just allows a little bit of airflow. You'll hear the click again. That's the second position. Go up a little more. That's the third position. So you're opening up a massive side of the camper. If you open both sides, you have this great cross ventilation. And then if you want to close it, go all the way up, and it comes all the way back down. Now, if you don't want to close it all the way, they have a vent location. So that you can see is a center location on the latch mechanism. So this allows you, if you wanted to, you could even have it in that vent position for security wise while you're gone from the camper, and you can have the vent fan going. You can use it in winter to kind of help with condensation. You can use it possibly for traveling, you know, and just have some airflow. It's a really nice feature just to be able to have some airflow, because it's a small space and you need to have airflow just to keep fresh air in the place and keep condensation down. I have a video on this, so I'll just go briefly over it. We have a little vent here that put on the side. Such a cool looking vent. And then we built this box, and it just has a lift-off panel, has these two retention pieces so it keeps the panel secured while it's on there. And then we've got two Battle Born batteries. They're each 100 amp hour, and they're wired in 12 volts, so everything's 12 volt in here. There's a power cutoff switch that basically cuts off everything to the camper. And then we have breakers for everything instead of fuses. So you have, they're all labeled for the camper feed, DC charger, solar charger. So it's really clean, easy to figure out, which is essential when you're doing wiring. These wires here run to the factory power center. The factory power station is over on the dinette side, and it flips down, and you have your AC side and your DC side. Now, we disconnected the shore power feed to the power center because the power center is set up to charge standard batteries, not lithium. So that you can update this with a different control board so it can charge lithium. However, I don't think it's necessary because lithium batteries should be stored about 60% power. And if you shut off the main power feed to it, you should have plenty of power to run the jacks or whatever you need to get it outside again, have the solar panels take over, or plug it into the truck and use the DC to DC charger. Alternatively, you can use a lithium battery charger and just connect it directly to the batteries, and that can work. For us, we have not had an issue even during the time we've stored it, just using that method. You can update this if you want to though, and have the ability to use the shore power for charging your batteries as an alternative. However, what we use that breaker for, since that is disconnected, is the 2000 watt power inverter. So the power inverter actually runs to the breaker that the shore power used to run to, meaning that when you turn on your power inverter, it powers all of the outlets in the entire camper, which is super great, and it's also not charging your batteries, so you don't have to worry about that. On this side, you have your standard DC circuits that came from Northstar. So they're things like the fan and the lights and so forth like that. Water pump. So that's what that guy is. There's a lot of factory power outlets, which I think we went over a lot of those in the original walkthrough video when we got this camper. Lots of storage, and all these cabinets have push button positive engagement style latches, and they're held up with these little struts. Really fantastic storage. Now you're going to want to keep anything in these upper cabinets lightweight. So think of things like chips or things along those lines, because the more weight you have up top, the less you will have stability with your camper. So especially if you're off-road, but even on-road, you really want to have that center of gravity as low as possible. So you can use these for things, but just try to keep it as lightweight as possible. There's LED lights all over. There's lights underneath here, above here, all over. They're all controlled with just a little push button on the light itself, which we find to be really nice because you can just turn on what you want whenever you want it, versus having a switch and just having everything light up. On the kitchen side, we have more cabinets that are basically the same style. We added some little dividers, and so this allowed kind of some separation here with storage. And you can customize these however you want. We added a little shelf here, and little pull-out storage for dishes and whatnot, which can definitely be utilized, or build what you like. Over here we have the coat closet, and it has a little mirror here, and this has really been super nice. I mean, for a tiny camper like this, you're talking the floor length on this camper is 7 foot long. For you to have a bathroom, a coat closet, you know, all the luxuries in such a small space, it's super nice. Now, you do have to realize that it's not a lot of space, so when you're, you know, moving about, you can pass each other in the aisleway and stuff, but you just have to realize that you are in a small space. I think this camper is ideally suited for a couple or possibly a single person that's traveling, but my wife and I love it, and we don't find the space to be an issue at all. The kitchen here has more storage, so you've got drawer storage and more storage. Now, we added these nice little takeout plywood pieces, and basically what they do is they keep your silverware from bouncing out and falling underneath the drawer while you're traveling. So really simple. It basically is held in the back by a little piece of wood, and so it just slides in, and when it's closed, this is held in place, so now your stuff falls out. And we did the same on this drawer here. Super functional, very fast, and great way of doing that. Got your heater here. You got 2 water pump switches. These are not factory switches, and we basically added these switches for 2 reasons. One is because the factory switch did not illuminate, so you really didn't know if it was on or off visually unless you looked and saw if it was in what position, but it's black, so it's really hard to see. With this, it's super easy because it lights up green when it's turned on. Take a look. So we've got two pumps in here. One is that siphon pump we talked about earlier that will suck water up from outside and into the tanks through the water filters. Now that pump can siphon to about 6 foot in distance for hose, so it's kind of ideal for siphoning when your truck is or the camper's mounted on the truck. Now the siphon pump is this pump switch right here, and so you just turn it on when you're using it. It pumps about 3 gallons a minute, so it's pretty efficient for refilling the tank there. We have a custom drain for the sink, and that allows us to run that custom drain that we put in out to the exterior of the camper instead of using a gray tank. And so we also have a custom drain on the shower, so those kind of merge together, so you have one outlet at the back of the camper that we had shown you. Now underneath here we have 2 filters that are for the intake side, and the first filter that we use is a sediment filter. It's just a 12-inch style, you know, standard filter, and then we use a charcoal filter as a second filtration. Now these are just standard canisters, so you can run any filters you choose to run in them, and they're actually very easy to change out because there's a little spacer blocker of wood that we put underneath of it. And so you remove that spacer block that helps support the weight of the water canisters, and then you can just unscrew them and take them out without disassembling anything. Now at the front of the wall of the camper, we have the additional filters that are when it's pumping out of the tank, and that is the kind of same idea. So you've got the first filter is a canister style, same size filter. We've run ceramic filters in it. We've run standard carbon block filters in it. Really any filter you want to run is fine. It just has to be able to be a fairly fine filter, because the next stage of it is UV light filtration. So the UV light basically kills any possible living organism, and so allows you to run water even if you're traveling in areas like Mexico, and be confident that you're not going to get sick from your water. So this is a fantastic way to do it. The UV light we wired so it turns on when you turn on your water pump. So anytime your water pump's on, your UV light is on and is functional. Now on the water fill side, we added a valve, a ball valve that basically allows you to turn on and turn off the water as it's flowing into the tank. So the nice thing with that is if you hook a hose up to the camper, you can actually turn off the water from inside so you don't overfill your tank, but you can also maximize its filling. There's also the vent hose that runs out towards the factory, the water fill on the outside of the camper, and you can see as the water gets into that vent hose that you know that the tank's getting full. Anyways, it allows for a really great way of being able to fill and use your water system. And this is probably the most elaborate water system I've ever seen in a truck camper, but it allows you to basically use water anywhere you want. If you were going to pull off of a stream, you can do that. You can pull off of any municipal water, well water, even if you're traveling international. Very functional, easy to replace the filters, which is essential. And the third way of filling, the water tank is located underneath the dinette bench, and it has this nice sealed cover that you can spin off, and it basically allows you to have access to the tank if you just want to dump water into your tank, but also allows you to have access if you drain your tank and you want to actually clean it out, like wipe it out. You can reach in there and do that. Now this tank is not a factory tank. We have a whole video on the process on replacing this tank. The original tank was a 20-gallon tank, and this tank is a much heavier duty tank, but it's also a 40-gallon rated tank, which is fantastic. Now, you never seem to get full amount of water that they rate these tanks for, because it just depends on how you're parked, what angle, so what it can pick up and so forth. Now, turning to the kitchen, we have our thermostat for the furnace, which you can turn on and off. It also shows the current temperature. The Dometic cooktop, which is fantastic, probably one of the nicest cooktops because it has the glass lid, and it's a little bit bigger burner area, and it's got the self-igniter, which is fantastic. You notice we don't have the hood vent, so you just crack your window, turn on your max air fan if you need to have some airflow. You definitely want a window open and a vent when you're running any propane cooker or whatnot, just to keep the fumes out. This little cabinet's pretty slick. I turned it into a spice rack, so put a little shelf in here, but you can store whatever you want. But I basically kind of walled it off and made it into a nice little storage spot for spices. The sink, we added this nice little soap dispenser, so we use it for dish soap. Yeah, it's fantastic for washing your hands, but just not having something else rolling around. To refill, it's just residential style. You just lift it out and fill it up. Love this. I've only seen a couple RVs or any sort of trailers or anything that have a soap dispenser, but it is indispensable. The sink is a really nice sink. Glass top, folds down. When it folds up, it has this nice rack, which is great for drying things or just setting things on outside of the sink. The faucet has a pull out if you want. We never really pull it out. It's got the hot cold. Originally, it was located back here, which was really weird because it was so far back. You know, you can imagine it back another 3 or 4 inches. It was barely getting into the sink, which is really unfortunate because when you use your sink, I want the water to be in the center of it. You know, it's a lot less messy, a lot less splashing. So we moved it forward, and that made it much more functional. We have a little screen we use, and basically allows any sort of food debris to be just dumped in the trash rather than going through your plumbing system. Because the plumbing system, you have to keep that clean as well. So that's the kitchen. It's very functional. It's small, but we've cooked amazing things in this kitchen, or I should say Faith has cooked amazing things. We have lots of videos on stuff that she has cooked, so check out some of our old videos on that. We also have one other thing, the water heater, and that will turn on the gas water heater, which I believe is either 4 or 6 gallon. It's a smaller water heater, but it's perfect for this size of camper. Now, up to the bed area, we have the famous Frawley underneath the bed. Now, we've run 3 different mattresses in here, and I found that mattresses are just a personal choice. So, more or less, you know, you'll probably want it whatever mattress that you find comfortable. This is actually a really lightweight option that we kind of figured out, which is actually a custom-made mattress. It's 2 layers of foam. There's a thinner, about 1 inch high-density foam, and then a thicker foam that's maybe 2 or 3 inches that is like a memory foam. And with the Frawley, we find it to be super comfortable and it's super lightweight. So that works really well for us. But it's super easy to put whatever mattress you want in here because it's just a standard queen bed. And the nice thing, being north to south, you don't have to climb over someone if you need to get out in the middle of the night. So when you climb up here on the bed, which you just step on the dinette to do that, we have 2 closets instead of 1. And you can see we put shelving in here. And we have a video showing how that we use our shelving and our clothing and so forth for storage. But factory, they only give you 1 closet, and we had them modify it to give us 2 matching closets, 1 on each side. And then up front we have hampers running the full length of the camper with these flip ups. These are fantastic because you need a place for all of your dirty linens and clothes and all that fun stuff. It's so good for all that. This camper is fantastic for storage. Love it, love it. The other thing I love is these huge windows, because when it's hot at night, you get great air ventilation by opening each side and then turning on the max air fan. It just sucks all the air forward. And then if you just want a nice view out, it's fantastic. You got a nice spot, you're parked. Those windows, love them. And good to just be able to see out anyways and see what's going on. They've got the same blackout shades, all the same as everywhere else. There's LED lights up here. There's more 120 outlets and factory USB and 12 volts. There's a lot of power connections in this tiny camper. Height wise, you can see you can sort of sit up. One of the advantages of us doing a thinner mattress setup is that we just got a little bit more headroom height. But I'm a 6 foot tall person, and you can see I'm not really fully set up. You have to kind of hunch over a little bit, but it's tall enough, and it allows the camper to be as short as possible, because if you're using it to actually travel off-grid or off-road, you want your thing to be as narrow and compact and low as possible. And I think Northstar nailed this camper. We've looked at truck campers ever since we bought this camper, and I've not found a better camper that offers the same level of comfort and just size. It's the most compact camper with the most features I've found, period. And it's ideal size because it's 7 foot wide instead of 7.5 or 8 foot wide. That's huge. That means it's basically right around the width of your total truck. Super nice. One thing we didn't point out, but we have the camper jack extensions on the front wheels or the front legs of the camper, and so that allows us clearance if you had a dually truck, or in our case we have rock sliders for attaching the camper, and allows us to have clearance for that. But it is so nice having a more compact camper. We've done the pop-up camper route, and we have a whole video on that, so if you want to hear our thoughts on that, definitely check that out. But we love this camper. I don't have any regrets on this camper, and people have asked, why are you selling this camper? Well, we have new travel plans, and we have a new travel vehicle we're setting up, and it's completely different. We're just going to try something different, and I think it'll be interesting, fun, and challenging in its own way. It is hard to sell this thing just because we've spent so many hours and so much money on it to really dial it in, but we even just getting it ready to sell spent about a month, both of us, working on this thing, and thousands of dollars to just dial in everything and make it as turnkey as possible. So this can be a camper that you could fly out here and throw your food in, your clothes, and just go travel, go down to Mexico, travel international, do whatever you want, because it is fully dialed in. New filters, full propane, full water tank. It is dialed, ready to go for whoever the next owner is, and we spent all the time to detail it, polish it, reseal everything on it, go through every little fine detail on this thing. I mean, we have a lot of hours into it. So I think it's probably one of the nicest, cleanest, most custom campers out there that gives you the comfort, but also just the ability to, you know, go off grid, stay off grid. 875 watts of solar panel. I mean, you can be out a long time, any weather, snow, clouds, doesn't matter. Go up to Alaska. This would definitely do it. So if you have any questions, post them in the comments below. Be sure to check out our other videos if you want to see where we've taken this thing, what other details we've done with the modifications on it, because this is kind of a broad overview video. We kind of just try to highlight stuff as we went here. And otherwise, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys following along and you know, just having interest in the stuff we're doing. We hope we can give you guys some ideas on your own vehicles as well. And stay tuned, because we're going to do some cool stuff coming up, and we'll let you guys know what happens, you know, when this thing sells and so forth. We'll catch you later. If you have any interest in this thing, check out the description below. We'll have a link to the ad for this thing, and you're welcome to post any comments on here or check out the listing. Talk to you later.
Thanks. Bye-bye.